Okay. Next, we have Commander Tom Mundell. Commander Tom is a decorated U.S. Army veteran who served 2 combat tours in Vietnam as an aerial scout gunner, flying high-risk missions across Southeast Asia. Shot down 11 times, he was awarded the Silver Star, Distinguished Flying Cross, and 4 Purple Hearts, and numerous other honors for valor. After military service with elite units, including the 101st Airborne and 10th Special Forces Group, he worked globally in defense roles, including as a senior combat aviation instructor for Bell Helicopter in Iran, and later as a training instructor for McDonnell Douglas and Flight Safety International. He is former CEO of Tactical Self-Defense and Combat Aviation System. Commander Tom has held leadership roles with the VFW and Missouri Association of Veteran Organizations. He continues to serve as a mentor, public speaker, and advocate, and sits on the boards of New Approach Missouri and the Missouri Cannabis Industry Association. Please welcome Tom.
Actually, I would think that you would think I would be the last person that you would ever see standing up here talking about this wonderful subject. I remember quite some years ago, I was having some issues. And of course, those of us that have issues, we don't think we have issues. And the reason why I feel the way I do about my career was because we're not nice people. In special ops, in my job, we hunt people down. And when we show up, it's going to be a bad day for somebody. Them, us, or both of us. I did this for 42 years. Still doing it. I just got back from Israel, and I was in the Ukraine before that. And but now, I see what we do is devastating. Before, you may not like this, but I loved my job. And I did it to the best of my ability. And many people paid for it. One of the terrible things that we have going on in our lives is procrastination. And you may not be dead, but you know somebody that has died or has perished because they were not able to get the care or what they really needed to survive. Quite some years ago, when you're doing the job I was doing, you don't think about what you're doing. You've got pharmaceuticals in you that help you basically cope, and you're numb. And you kick a door in, you take everybody out, and you leave. And that's the end of it until the next day or the next hour. And I did this and did this. But I never had anything like that happen to me till 1994. First, I lost my children's mother. Then 4 days later, I lost my mom. Then some years later, I lost my darling daughter, Angel. She was 33. I delivered her in the back seat of my mom and dad's 49 Packard when I was 17. She was rushing to the house to get to me because she knew I was going overseas again, and she wanted to see me before I left. But she didn't make it. She had an automobile accident because she was hurrying down the highway to get to her dad. And I ended up at the hospital that afternoon. And we had to pull a plug on her. After that, I lost 3 uncles and a couple aunts. And then my son. I had caught my son, if I can say that, at 39 years old he was. He was smoking a joint when I got to his house, and I was very upset about it because I was running a claim on him with the Veterans Administration for traumatic brain injury, which he received in the Persian Gulf. And I said, why are you doing this? I said, it's against the law. I said, I'm running a claim on you. This could blow the whole thing. They'll reset you, and we'll have to start this whole process over again. And he goes, I know, Dad, but we don't drink, we don't do cigarettes, and I just had a friend give me this, and I found some relief from it. And I looked at him, and being the jerk of a guy I was, a terrible father, instead of saying, oh, I'm so proud of you, son, that you found something, let's work on this together and see what we can do about it because we know it's illegal. I didn't say that. I said the worst thing you could say. I said, I don't care. Well, 11 days later, I drive up. He's laying in his front yard. I jump out. I go up there. I start CPR on him for 40 minutes. I had hit 911 as I was running up his yard. And the authorities came. We couldn't bring him back. Not too long after that, Ethan came into my life. And I was having struggles, but I didn't realize I was having struggles. And I had been given a job by Obama, a PF, a presidential finding, to validate the validity of medical cannabis for the VA and the federal government. After that, Trump picked me up and continued me doing it. And so for 70 months, off and on, I went to 28 states and 5 countries and found out we'd been lied to for 90 years about this plant. Could tell you a lot about that. But how does that bring us up to this? My friends, there was a lot of stigma when we first started on cannabis, as you well know. We had to change the semantics, got away from the word marijuana and went to cannabis, recreational adult use, changed the semantics. I felt like we needed to change the semantics this way, but then I had an enlightening experience with, I hadn't even done any ketamine ever or anything else, but the other night I had an enlightening experience that said you must keep that word psychedelic in there because there's a lot of meaning behind it. Because entheogens, I hope I said that right, I felt that should replace that word psychedelic so that we can talk about everything that entheogens do for us, the side effects, et cetera, and not have to use the dreaded word psychedelics that put somebody back in Timothy Leary days and they see the negative side, which I wasn't a part of. I didn't know anything about it at that time. Well, I found through my studies and my exploration on cannabis, and I actually broke down and started trying it myself, and I found out that it may not heal you, it may not cure you, but it definitely gives you the ability to cope. And the other thing, with any challenge you may have in life, cannabis seemed, if you got the right terpenes, that is, and cannabinoids, that it will help you cope and give you that word hope. Okay? But one thing it doesn't do is reset your mind. And from all the studies I've been doing and the understanding I have and some of the great friends that's in this room and that's been with me for the 11 years, 12 years, 13 years, however long it's been in my journey in this alternate world that I'm in from what I came from, I've had some of the best guidance on this earth from, in the cannabis world, from Steve D'Angelo to, I don't want name a bunch of names, but I'm just saying they were out there and they raised those wings and put me under them and taught me what I needed to know to help me understand this plant. And psychedelics, entheogens, plays a phenomenal point in our lives. I didn't realize it because I didn't know what psychedelics were. I know this sounds crazy, but I was at Fort Rucker, and I had a young lady friend of mine and some wives of some of the other warriors that I was working with threw a party for us one day. We didn't know what was going on, and these girls had wanted to see some changes in their men, because we're a little hardcore, to say the least, you know. And I ended up on a Honda 50. I don't know if anybody knows what a Honda 50 is. It's the smallest motorcycle you could ever imagine. But I ended up on this motorcycle, naked, with the base commander's daughter on the George C. Wallace Whiteway in Alabama, going to Dothan to hear a group play that she wanted to hear. State troopers pulled us over, and back in those days, troopers just picked up the damn bike, threw it back in the trunk of their car, and drove us back to Rucker. Of course, they gave her a blanket and put her out of the car and let her sneak up to the house. And they threw me out of the car down the road in the middle of the post and the bike. Well, I didn't realize what had happened. I saw Johnny Carson that night before we took off on our little motorcycle, and it was the funniest show I've ever seen in my life. I enjoyed that night so much, but I never thought about it, and I never thought about psychedelics or anything like that. You know, they told us it was the mushrooms we've been pulling out of the cow poop. I mean, that's where they got it. It was coming out of cow poop. They just go pick them and boil them down and make Kool-Aid out of it. Next thing you know, you're drinking it. Okay? Well, that was an experience. But so many times in my life, these experiences hit me right at the moment that they needed to make a phenomenal, positive change in my life. And I feel that some of the best moments of my life has been spent in this environment. From the cannabis world up to today, with this tremendous group of warriors. And that's what you all are. We're warriors trying to enhance the quality of mankind. And this is the first time in my life that I can see now that we're actually enhancing the quality of life, because I've been killing people for 40 years. And there's a big difference. It affects you. If you live long enough to actually get to the age that I am, or the mindset that I am, and you start thinking about these things, it's devastating. And until it started happening to me, I didn't know what it was like to lose a mom, mother your kids, much less. Two precious children that never asked me to borrow a dime from me. I know that doesn't mean anything, but that's the type of people these were. This young man, my son Thomas, and my daughter Angel, they were really, really good people. They died for way too soon. And the problem is, I caused it because they listened to me. And over 100 of my friends that respect me and respected my word, stay away from that shit. Stay away from cannabis. Take your pills when the doctor tells you. If you want to have a drink, have a drink. Don't worry about that. But stay away from cannabis. And it was the worst thing I could have ever done. Because I can assure you, I really think that Brenda and both those kids of mine would be alive. And so many people that have perished would be alive if they would have had that ability to cope with just a joint. I hate to call it a joint. If they would have just had that instead of drinking, they either died by drinking on their meds, taking too many meds, or committing suicide. My children's mother killed herself. And I can understand that. I can understand why she did that. And having an idiot like me in her life for all those years, and having to put up with dealing with raising 3 children without a man in her life, because I was never there. I was always overseas, and the excuse was, I'm doing it for the government. And we got to do this, what we're doing, not only for ourselves, but for mankind, because we're doing the right thing. These modalities will give you the ability not only to reset things in your mind, but it gives you that ability for hope and the ability to cope. And it resets you so that you possibly don't need to go back and even do it again. I don't know about the ketamine and all these other modalities, how long they last and everything like that. But I haven't had a pill in me for 6 years, except Adderall once in a while for focus, of course. But other than that, I take nothing. I was taking 25 to 30 pills by the VA and by the government and DARPA. DARPA saved my butt too, I have to say that. And there's a lot of programs going on in DARPA. That's the Department of Advanced Research and Development for the government. I'm not even supposed to talk about it, but there's a lot of programs going on there for a lot of different things, but they are really researching these type of modalities with veterans. And I am part of that, but not this particular thing. But I'm out of a wheelchair because of them. I can see. I was blind in both eyes, and I just came back from Florida, and they gave me my vision back in my right eye. And so the miracle of science and medicine is there. We need to broaden the scope so that they can increase their abilities to prescribe things or suggest things that are not necessarily medicinal pills. Because I can tell you, I've taken more crap, I hate to use that word, I'm sorry, but then Carter's got pills. I've taken, he was mentioned sertraline and all these others. It's bullshit, okay? It messes your head up. Every single pill from aspirin, you name it, take enough of them, it'll kill you. Because that's why it's affecting our body, because it is a, what's the word? Yeah, it's a poison, but what's the right word for poison? It is a poison, but there's another word for it. What? Toxin. Thank you very much. It's toxic. It's a toxin. Causes toxicity in our bodies, and it's ruinous. I've smoked a lot of pot recently. I have to admit that, but I've learned the right types. I know what I could write a dissertation on cannabis, easy. Because I know what a terpene is and cannabinoids, and I know how effective they are, and know what they can do. But if you don't have the right ones and you partake, it can mess you up. It can cause some issues in your life, but it's not going to kill you or anything like that. But it's not going to be as effective, giving you the ability to cope with whatever challenge you may have. But the Israelis have got terpenes and cannabinoid combinations that have almost alleviated any type of involuntary muscle movement. Think about that. One of the doctors was talking about Parkinson's. Involuntary muscle movement is a symptom. That's almost unheard of in Israel. Another one is pooping and peeing on yourself. They've got that almost totally under control. They don't have that symptom in Crohn's and different types of diseases that come around, that is a symptom of it, because they've got it controlled with certain terpenes that we don't really have in our cannabis here, because we just got commercial crap in every state in the nation. Hopefully the new little farms that we got here in Missouri, we're going to be able to come up with some very good cannabis, medicinal cannabis, that will help people, that will have those right terpenes and cannabinoids in it. But right now we don't. And but I have grown. I mean, I have been involved with some people who have grown some, and I have given it to patients. And I can tell you from my own point of view and my own personal opinion, these people have certainly been alleviated of their challenges. And you can see some videos online of people that have terrible involuntary muscle movement, their heads, they do all kinds of things. They do the right terpenes, and all of them, they're sitting there and they don't even realize, and I've been sitting in the damn room when we applied it to them, and they're talking to you normal. They're not shaken, and they don't even realize it till their wife walks in and goes, Harry, don't drop that glass. And he falls back on the couch and drops the glass because she brought him back in his mind to his altered state, his negative altered state. But I believe these modalities we're talking about now, is the time that we need to pursue this and get legislation and get the ability to use these different modalities so that we can research it and find out what really helps us reset our mind. You saw Ron up here, what it's done to him. Whoa, you know? You could look at it in a couple different ways. It kind of scares me in a way, but you know, he was like that before, believe me. It's a lot of it. But I'm glad Ethan didn't. He'd go tell him. And I love Ron. But I'm concerned with entheogens, psychedelics. I am, because I don't want my mind reset. I just want the ability. I don't want to forget my kids. I don't want to forget anything that I've done in the past. I just want to feel, I want to be able to cope with it and deal with it in a positive way and turn that energy that's being sucked out of me by, you know, just feeling like crap because I was involved in that kind of stuff, and be able to go forward and bring the word to people that, hey, there is a way out of psychological trauma. And, you know, you don't have to be in the military to have PTSD, believe me. Every woman in this place has got it, just because they got to deal with, you know, idiots like me, you know, and men. I'm not being ignorant by saying every woman's got PTSD, but I can't imagine one that didn't, except my mother, of course. No, I'm just kidding. But everybody goes through trauma, and we will find a way to reset that mind and learn that there's a way to cope, because we're going to be given hope. I don't know if anyone's got any questions or anything like that, but if you do, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Thank you for coming. We learned very recently that the military is going to start testing for psilocin, which is the metabolite of psilocybin mushrooms, for active duty military. It's apparently not something that they have been testing for when they do their drug testing, but they're going to start testing for it now. And at the same time, the military is researching psilocybin for treatment of PTSD in veterans. What do you make of this?
Well, I happen to know exactly what you're talking about, and it's not exactly the way you're saying it. It's not the military, it's DARPA. Okay? We don't need that in the military. I mean, I'm not saying we don't need that treatment, but we don't need soldiers smoking pot. I don't care. We don't need them on any type of hallucinogenic. We don't need them to have any type of psychological trauma, not psychological issues going on, like they don't know who they are or something like that. We just can't deal with that in the military, because we're supposed to have our heads together. We can't have something we're questioning in our head or having some outside product affecting us when we're doing our job. I don't think you'd want me in an F-15 flying over, possibly carrying nukes, because I teach nuclear dispersion. You're going to hate me for this, but why did I just come out of Israel? I teach air-to-ground combat tactics with the F-15EXI. I'm the primary instructor for the Israelis. I started with their attack helicopters, and the worst thing I've ever seen in my life was when I spent 12 hours overnight in Gaza. Now, Gaza. What was I doing there? I was doing a BDA, a bomb damage assessment of what my students were doing, and there's nothing left there. Right or wrong, I'm not going to get into the politics of the BS over there, okay, but they've been doing it for 1,000 years. It's going to be hard to get rid of them until all those generations are gone, I think, on both sides. But we need to come to an end with this. I want you to know, everybody in this room, I know how you feel about Trump, a lot of you, but I want you to know that I've been really close with this guy, his administration, ever since his first term. And I can tell you that he hates war. He hates it. He does not want to send another American or anybody, he doesn't care if they're American, Russian, or what, into a combat situation. But if anybody ever should have smoked a joint, it's him, okay? And I said that to his face. I even said that to Jeff Sessions, you know? But we were able to flip Jeff Sessions from being Mr. Anti-Marijuana because we brought the facts and the science to him that he was enough of a man, and the politicians that came over to us, like Ron and some of the others, when we brought the facts and science to them, they accepted those facts and science, and they believed in it, and they couldn't dispute it. That's what we got to do with this. We got to bring the facts and science to them, you know, and capture them emotionally. When I lost my family and everything, I wanted to quit the government because I suddenly started realizing, hey, maybe God, I know it sounds weird. I was thinking God was trying to get back at me for what I was involved in. And maybe he was, I don't know. But it affected me to the point that I was able to have enough of an open mind that I allowed Epen and all the other people in the industry to help change my attitude and change my mind. And Dr. Sue Sisley was the one that got me totally away from the pills in one day. And believe me, the drugs I was on was a little bit heavy. I won't even go into it. And I don't want to mention names in here, but you all know who you are, that made a phenomenal effect in my life. And it was all been positive. And without those changes, there'd be a lot of people dead that are alive today because attitudes have changed and they've reached out. They're able to get to the plant, and soon they're going to be able to get to these modalities. And we have to be there, and we have to push this through. But you can't go up and start jacking your jaws up with these politicians and trying to change your mind. What you need to do is reach out to them emotionally and find a way to capture them. I mean, every guy I went to talk to, or woman that I talked to, I did a stratification on them. I knew every single good thing that they liked in their life and everything that they hated. I didn't really care what they hated, but I wanted to know what they liked. That's what you do in counterintelligence, you know. I just used my military experience in the cannabis world to flip these damn senators and representatives that we needed to get on board just enough time to get their vote. And you can see it worked. And we can do the same thing with this industry right here, but it's going to take a lot more work because there's a lot more ingrained negativity about entheogens, psychedelics, because they got a lot of bad things in their head about it. That's worse than what they thought about marijuana. I hate that word. But, you know, and I think we can do it. I think we can make those changes. God bless you.